Welcome to today's learning module on business continuity planning. My name's Diane Brown and I'm a Chartered Accountant and Business Advisor with SRJ Walker Wayland. My passion is education and educating business owners such as yourselves on the importance of planning for success and working with you to develop strategies to help you achieve your growth and profitability goals. I think we can all agree that 2020 gave rise to some really unexpected challenges. We've had COVID, we've had bushfires, we've had floods, we've had to deal with a lot in the last 12 months. However, COVID-19 fundamentally changed the way we do business now and in the future. It highlighted the importance of planning and adapting to change. And this is why we need a business continuity plan. A business continuity plan outlines how your business will operate during any unplanned disruption in service, whether caused by COVID, fire, flood, or any other type of natural disaster. Having your business continuity plan can reduce the impact on your cash flow, your supply chain, your customers, your employees, and also your brand. So let's talk about how we go about developing a business continuity plan. We start by looking at our now and our where, and we break it down into our different how action items. And anybody that's watched any of my previous planning sessions will know that this methodology is the methodology that we apply to develop our plans in any situation. So we're going to apply the now, where, how methodology to adapting or developing a business continuity plan. Bearing in mind that there are 7 key areas that a good business continuity plan needs to address. And those areas are around cash, asset protection, communication, employees, customers, supply chains, and your IT environment. And I'm going to spend a little bit of time talking about the characteristics that you should be considering in your business continuity plans in each of those key areas. So as I said, we're looking at our now. So what is the crisis that's currently hit us or could potentially hit us, be it natural disaster, be it COVID? What are the key issues and the reality that we now face? And we're going to spend about 20% of our time and resources looking at that area. Then we're going to need to look at where do we need to be? And it's important that we understand the gap between what we're faced with now at a potential crisis stage and then what we need to get to in terms of both 6 months and 12 months. And you'll see, you might even want to break it down further than that, between 3, 6 and 12. And the reason for that is there are some critical stages as you go throughout any natural disaster or any COVID impact, as we've seen over the past 12 months. And then we need to look at our how and spend the majority of our time on the implementation side of things. So what do we need to do to actually help us get where we need to be at each of those critical 3, 6, 9, 12-month phases? One of the first places I start when I'm looking at the now situation. So what could I possibly be faced with in the event of a significant business interruption? And I start with a mind map. And I love mind maps because it's a great way of getting everything that I have in my head out and allow me to put some structure around it. So the things that you need to be considering is, what are the challenges that you would face if that event occurred? Then you need to think about what immediate decisions would need to be made. And more importantly, what is your financial position currently? What does it look like right now? At the same time, you need to be thinking about, are there any other business-specific, supply chain-specific issues that are particularly relevant to your business and your industry and your location that you're going to have to deal with? On top of that, we should also think about what opportunities that situation can create. And I think COVID has shown us some great examples of businesses that have identified opportunities early, pivoted and adapted, and released new products, new services, capitalized on new markets, and are now actually in a stronger position than they were previously. And I think we all saw and took advantage of opportunities in terms of being forced to adapt, for example, to remote workforces, etc. So in any challenge, try and have a look for what opportunities that could present to your business. So start with a mind map. In terms of your now analysis, one of the things that I would recommend every business do, regardless of what situation you may think could cause or give rise to that business interruption, is develop your list of key contacts. So this means having your list handy to take with you so you know, or in the event of something happening to you as the key business owner, you know where your accountant is, what are their contact details, your solicitor, your bank manager, your insurance broker, your landlord, your phone and internet provider, your business equipment support people, your IT services and support. All of those key contacts will form part of your support plan in the event of any situation occurring. The next thing that you need to do is you need to develop a list of any existing funding arrangements that you have in place. So keep that list handy, and it would include things like, do you have any leased equipment or motor vehicles? Where are your lease contracts? Who are they with? Who do you need to contact in those situations? Where are your bank details? What are your bank accounts? Who are the signatories on those accounts? Who has access to your bank and who should have access to your bank? What are your insurance details? Are they up to date? Are they consistent with your existing needs of your business? And have they included for any other potential needs? Ensure your fixed asset register is up to date. So what assets do you own? Have you got a list of all of them? Ensure your staff contact details are up to date and that they're easily accessible. So in the event of an emergency, you can contact people quickly and easily. So in terms of your now, start with those key areas. Then we need to look at our where. So where do we need to be? So what's the current vision of your business? Hopefully you have one. When you know what your current vision is, what is the impact on that vision of this particular event? What could happen? What do you need to change? And you need to be looking at developing 3 different scenarios. So what could my business look like if there is low severity of this happening? Or if there is a medium impact? Or what could happen if there is a high impact associated with this particular event? And that means looking at, when I talk about low, medium, high, just to give you some guidelines around that. So a low severity would be something that is having minimal disruption to your business, but it can probably result in business as usual, although maybe in some sort of slightly reduced format. A medium severity impact will result in a 10 to 20% revenue loss, an impact on your cash reserves, an impact on your capacity and capabilities to deliver. And then a high severity impact will be one that could result in over a 50% revenue loss. So I always recommend doing some what if scenarios. So if this happens, what could be my cash flow forecast? If this happens, what's the impact? If this high severity happens, what is the impact and what do I need to do to stop it from happening? So consider the different scenarios. And then we move into our how. And I'm going to break each of the key 7 areas that we discussed earlier down into each of the 3 stages of your now, where, how. So the critical and most important thing you need to be considering in the event of any unplanned and significant business interruption is cash flow. So in terms of your now, you need to be looking at what your current level of liquidity is. So what are your known cash inflows? What is the fixed versus your variable expenditure? So bear in mind that fixed, traditionally there's not a lot we can change, although you may be able to contact your banks to put some of those loan repayments and finance arrangements on hold for a short time, which we were allowed to do during the COVID-19 crisis. Your variable expenditure can be adjusted. So have a look at what you can do, what you can postpone, what you can address in terms of reducing those variable expenses. You need to know how many months you have before you utilize all of your current cash and cash facilities. And also, it's great for you to identify areas of inefficiency that exist within your business. So one way to reduce the impact on our cash is to reduce our expenses. Another way is to reduce inefficiencies that happen within your business. Then in terms of where, I've discussed the importance of your what if, your scenario planning. So do some forecasts, some cash flow forecasts, looking at low severity, medium severity, and high severity impact events. So prepare those. In terms of your how, make sure you're also accessing any government support that's available, including government grants. Consider any payment deferrals that you can make, particularly with the Australian Taxation Office, with your bank, with your landlord, etc. Review your debtor terms. Collect any outstanding debtors that you currently have, and possibly look at reducing your debtor terms and the people that you actually give credit to. Identify any assets that can easily be converted into cash, and those things that you could sell to help you get through on a short-term crisis. Review your pricing structure and margins, bearing in mind that you want to be looking at maintaining those sales of those high margin, high volume goods. Complete a waste audit. A waste audit is highly recommended to any business that is looking to increase efficiencies, but also businesses in preparing your continuity plan. Consider if there are any additional short-term financing arrangements that you can access to address any potential cash shortfalls. And identify and monitor your financial KPIs. So all business owners need to be across their key financial KPIs, and they will be different for each business, but at a minimum, it'll include your sales targets, your gross profit and your gross profit percentages, your net profit percentages. At a minimum, you need to be monitoring those on a daily or weekly basis in the event of an emergency. The next thing you need to think about is asset protection. So in terms of what you can do now in your business continuity planning, it's looking at what existing asset protection strategies you currently have. What existing insurance policies do you currently have? Do you currently have business interruption insurance? And if so, what are the exclusions associated with that? Because what we've found through COVID is that a lot of business interruption insurance had specifically exclusions that included things such as COVID, etc. So be mindful of that when you're reviewing your insurance policies. In terms of where you want to be, at the end of any crisis, you want to make sure that your assets are protected from both a business perspective and also from any individual assets that you may have. You need to make sure that you've got your business and your personal insurances adequate, current as well. So how do you do that? I can't stress enough the importance of getting professional support for this. So meet with your accountants to ensure that your structures are asset adequate, that they support your individual asset protection. You might want to discuss with them options such as, in the event of an emergency, gift and loan back arrangements. You need to ensure your enduring power of attorney is up to date, that they're signed with your wills, that you know where your copies are located, and other people know, in the event of an emergency, how they could get hold of that documentation. So meet with your solicitor, meet with your insurance provider, and make sure you have those things adequate and current. The next thing that you need to address in your business continuity plan is a communication plan. So step one in that is looking at you now. So identifying who your key stakeholders are. So who are your key customers? Who are your key suppliers? Obviously, this will include people like employees. It'll include your funders, such as your banks, anyone you've got equipment loans. It'll include your landlord, your key stakeholders for your business. Who are you? Who are they? How do you get in contact with them? Then you need to look at what existing channels do I have for communication to those stakeholders. For example, in the event of a fire, if I cannot access server, if you're not cloud-based, or computers, and I can't email, how else can I get in contact with those on a timely and efficient basis? You need to be thinking about your where. So your where is, you need to make sure in the event of a situation happening, that you have got a clear message identified and communicated. And that message needs to include things such as what is the nature of the event that caused the business interruption, what your plans are to deal with it, how it will impact that particular stakeholder group, bearing in mind that the impact on employees will be very different to the impact on your customers and very different to the impact on your suppliers. And you need to give them some sense of comfort by providing them with a plan that is your road to recovery, so that they know and can have comfort in what's going to happen with your business. How you do that? You develop your business continuity plan now, before the situation occurs, and you develop it in conjunction with your management team and your advisors, such as your accountants, solicitors, insurance brokers. And you ensure that communication plan addresses issues around job security, for example, and that you've developed a way to distribute that to all of the stakeholder channels. And it might be different for each of your stakeholder groups. In terms of your employees, there's some really important things that you need to be considering. So any business should be reviewing employee skill sets and any existing capability gaps on a regular basis. So if you haven't done it, at least do it as part of your business continuity planning. So identify what level of resource you need now in the event of like normal trading, in the event of a crisis, whether that be low, medium or high severity, and then what sort of skill sets and employee capabilities you need in the future. You need to think about virtual work arrangements, including IT platforms. And I think after 2020, we've all learnt some really important new software skills. We're all familiar now with Teams, with Zoom, with Slack. You know, a lot of businesses have been pushed into cloud-based software earlier than they would have planned, and we've all adapted brilliantly in terms of ensuring our business sustainability. So have a think about what else can you do to improve efficiencies in that area. It's really important that you identify any government requirements regarding employee and supplier and customer safety. And I think we're all familiar with the raft of COVID changes that we've had to stay on top of in terms of what we can and can't do in this area this year. Another thing that is highly recommended is bear in mind the impact of these events on staff. I think everybody's anxiety levels were heightened during 2020. And for a lot of us, including myself, they probably still are, with dealing with the unknown. So identify any existing employee health and well-being programs and that you could put in place to monitor your own health and that of your employees. Identify any free government support that's available as well. There are some free programs that are available to help us at the moment in this area. The other thing that you need to be thinking about is, do you need alternate talent pools to get you through this crisis? Do you need to be drawing for a short-term basis on some other skill sets that you don't need to have on a permanent basis in your business? And this might be looking at casual or contract or outsourced consultants to help you get through this crisis. And if so, identify who they are and what areas of speciality they could bring to your business in the event of a crisis. So you want to make sure that at the end of this crisis or in preparation for the crisis that you are maintaining an efficient, skilled workforce to enable full capacity, capability and affordability needs are addressed. In terms of your how you go about doing that, I've mentioned some of it already. Set your plan of who your short-term talent pools might be around your support network. So your accountants, your solicitors, any other consultants that you might need to bring in the case of an emergency. With your existing staff, do that skills gap analysis. So develop an action plan now to address any staff skills gaps that you have in those areas. Utilise any workplace or workforce scenario planning to help you confirm those requirements. Engage external HR support if you don't have it in-house to ensure compliance with legal and government regulations and develop action plans to stay current. And there is actually some great free resources available on the business.gov.au website to help you in this area. The fifth key area you need to be thinking about is making sure that you keep your current needs at the forefront of our focus. So that means understanding what your current customer and client needs are right now. What might be any changes to their potential consumption pattern that might arise as a result of this particular incident occurring. For example, I think a lot of businesses I've been working with have pivoted brilliantly in the last 12 months and open online stores. And their customer base, who previously would go into a retail store, are now quite comfortable purchasing online. So consider any potential changes to your consumer consumption. By going online, it's also opened up new markets for them as well. So have a think about what that impact could be on your business. Think about how you're going to identify and engage with both your existing and potential new customers during this time. And more importantly, you need to be thinking about how you're going to service and deliver to your existing and potential customers. And that means storing up that supply chain. And I'll talk about that in a minute. You also need to identify any reputational shift that might occur as a result of the event that gave rise to the business interruption, from both an industry perspective and also your own business perspective. So has there been any reputational damage or reputational impact to your industry or business as a result of this? If so, what can you do to address those challenges? Or have there been, the other way, any opportunities presented as a result of the event that occurred? So what you need to want to have identified in your where is your customer preferences are revised, any opportunities are maximised for new income streams. You need to make sure that you've shored up existing and identified new delivery mechanisms and channels, and that your customer communication plans are in place. How do you do that? Start with a customer and product portfolio analysis and implement any identified strategies and action items that come out of that analysis. Start also with a competitor analysis, but not just your current competitors, but future competitors. They may not always exist within the field that you currently operate. So think about who your current and future competitors will be and address any gaps that you may have to be able to reduce the impact of those competitors moving in on your market share. So one of the key challenges we saw in the past 12 months, particularly with my manufacturing-based clients, was supply chain security. So particularly for clients who may be importing raw materials or even trying to get raw materials from other states within Australia that went into lockdown, the impact of our supply chain could, in some cases, have been significant. So what you need to do is you need to think about what is going to be the impact of this event on your key suppliers. You need to determine your production and inventory requirements for all of our three scenarios, for the short term, medium term, long term, based on your three forecast what if scenarios. So in your cash flow what if scenarios, have you got the production capacity and capabilities to actually meet that demand in that instance? And you also need to start shoring up those supply chains. So think about any additional needs or any supply arrangements that you need to start bringing into your network so that you may not be heavily reliant on one or two suppliers. So where you want to be is you want to have that supply chain secured to address each of the potential forecast what if scenarios. You want to have negotiated supplier terms and adjusted them where needed. How do you do that? Again, you need to go back to your inventory management system. So you need your inventory management system to be spot on to make sure that you can track visibility of any inbound raw materials and identify and give yourself advance warning of any inventory shortfalls that could occur as a result of that. You need to review your supplier investment and collaboration strategy and review your supplier terms to minimize the cash flow impact on yourself. You need to develop a future investment plan to better mitigate that future risk. And I'll give you an example of some clients I'm working with. So they had some issues with their supply chain, so they actually bought it in-house. They're accessing some government funding as we speak to automate that facility to shore up and supply themselves rather than relying on external supply chains, external suppliers for that raw material supply. So think about what you can do and what capacity you have to start investing in your own business to mitigate future risk. Finally, IT environment. It's critical that we're securing and adapting our IT environment. I think COVID has shown us the importance of utilizing cloud-based software for our remote workers. So continue to explore those options. So what you need to be doing is you need to be looking at identifying the capacity and the capabilities of your existing IT infrastructure. What are your critical now and future hardware and software requirements? So don't just look at what you need for the next 12 months. Develop a plan for the next 2 years. What do you need to have in place to make sure that you can function efficiently and effectively? Identify any security risks in your current and future applications, including the impact on suppliers. And it's interesting that I see a lot in the grant and tender space coming out about this at the moment, that we need to have some sort of risk analysis plan in place and mitigation strategies to deal with identified risks around IT security. So have a think about that in terms of your own business, but specifically if you're considering applying for any grants, it's something that we're seeing a lot more come into grant criteria. Identify potential IT support options. So do you want to have in-house IT support if you're large enough? Do you want to outsource it to IT vendors? Oh, do you want to use a managed service provider? So consider your options and identify who you would use in that situation. It's important that you liaise with experts in your industry to make sure you've identified any future trends for IT security, software, hardware, etc., to help you improve your existing efficiencies. So where you want to be is you want to make sure that you've got a secure IT environment that's going to enable seamless digital processing. You want your employees upskilled to ensure that they can maximize the efficiencies associated with those digital platforms. You want your IT policies and procedures documented and communicated around these areas. So how are you going to do it? You start with an audit of your existing IT system and identify gains for efficiency. Get an expert in this area to help you. Complete a cost versus benefit analysis of those IT scoping recommendations. So which one will give you the most bang for your buck? You need to be developing a staff training plan to roll out and upskill your staff in those new platforms. You need to be reviewing and updating your IT policies and procedures, and review your employee processes to identify opportunities for greater digitisation, particularly around your recruitment and onboarding. And there's some fantastic HR specialists out there that can help you in this area. So where else can I go for help? So we've covered a lot today. It is just a brief overview on the 7 key components and on a business continuity plan. For further resources, I would suggest you review the SRJ Walker Wayland Disaster Scenario Planning for Small Business webinar, which is also available on your Business Moreton Bay region. So I hope that gives you the basics on how to organise and prepare a business continuity plan. And as we've seen over the past 12 months, having this plan in place will help minimise the interruption on your business of any unplanned events. Thanks for your time. Bye.